You may not know it, but when it comes to plant diversity, Australia is number 5 in the world. That's the good news. But when it comes to threatened species, 14% are in this country, like this Pimelia spicata, one of our rice flowers. And in New South Wales alone, there are 611 threatened species. So what can we do about it? Well, welcome to the Australian PlantBank. At Mount Annan, south of Sydney, is a state-of-the-art science and research facility, part of the Royal Botanic Gardens and Domain Trust. It's brand new, opening its doors only last year. And if the scientists here have one overarching brief, it's to learn everything they can about saving plant species from extinction. Case in point, the Australian PlantBank is right slap bang in the middle of the Cumberland Plain woodland, a critically endangered ecological community in Sydney's western suburbs, one of the fastest growing urban areas in Australia. And whilst it doesn't look that spectacular, there are all sorts of good reasons why we need to study and preserve the plant species that give it life. John Seaman is the project manager at the PlantBank. He's a horticultural scientist by training, which means he has an intimate understanding of everything that happens here.
We've got what we call a living laboratory. It's essentially an extension of our science laboratories inside, and it's a deconstruction of the plants within this critically endangered plant community into its component or puzzle pieces.
Yeah, you've got one of my favourite bush tucker plants there, I noticed, the native raspberry.
We do. We're very lucky. We've got within this woodland a native mint, the native raspberry, we've got a native sorghum, we even have a native passion fruit. And we're interested in the raw genetics of those plants, the untapped, unmodified ones. And our goal over time is to capture those and store them in our seed bank, but perhaps plant breeders can incorporate those genetics to improve disease resistance or shelf life or better flavour at some point down the track.
PlantBank has been brilliantly designed to be anything but a dry scientific institution. These drawers just invite you to open them up and explore the information inside, in this case about fruits, and why plant biodiversity is so important. And look, anyone that can make algae look as sexy as this is going to do a wonderful job of engaging with their audience. As the name says, it's a bank, a plant bank. And the bank deposits, if you like, include 260 of those species that are threatened here in New South Wales.
I'm cleaning seeds of a tree that we collected a few months ago up the north coast, Angus. It's called Backhausia sciadofra, or shatterwood. It's a small rainforest tree, and this is the first time we've collected this species for the seed bank.
It's a relative of the lemon myrtle, isn't it?
It's in the same genus as Laminar myrtle, exactly, yes. Many of these plants in the family Myrtaceae are really badly affected by myrtle rust now. It's a recent pest, or recent disease that's arrived in Australia only 3 or 4 years ago, and it's very widespread across the whole family Myrtaceae, which is one of the most important families in the Australian flora, trees and shrubs.
And where's it going to go from here?
After I've cleaned it, I'll ascertain just how many good seeds there are, and I'll split the collection in two. I'll retain half of it here at PlantBank. The other half will go to the Millennium Seed Bank at Kew in England.
So, where are we now?
We're heading into the seed drying room, which is within the seed vault at the Australian PlantBank, Angus.
And what's with the blue colour? It's quite sexy.
It is. It's more about drama. Our audience who look through the glass windows outside can't come in, so this communicates that it's a cold space to them, as you'll feel now in just a second.
Yeah. So what do we have in here? Obviously a lot of seeds.
We have a lot of seeds, nearly 100 million seeds from about a fifth of Australia's 25,000 plant species sitting in the rooms that we're in front of now. We've got a 4-degree room, a minus 20-degree room, and we actually have a spare for when our collection grows to that point. If we get the combination of seed drying correct and the right temperature here, we can extend the life of the seed by several hundred years and possibly even several thousand years simply by storing in these foil envelopes. We normally store our seeds in 4 degrees or -20, but not everything's amenable to those temperatures. And so Karen's lowering some samples into our cryogenic tank, which is at a chilly -196 degrees Celsius.
Okay, so what sort of plants are you storing in here?
Well, we typically can't afford to store everything in this system, so we store some of our more problematic plant groups, our orchids, some of their mycorrhizal partners, but particularly our focus at the moment is on rainforest species which aren't amenable to the drying process as part of our standard seed banking system.
So this is not so much about storing seeds as vegetative parts of plants.
Yeah, if you imagine you've got a rainforest-sized fruit the size of a golf ball, you can't store too many of those in here, so we can dissect the plant down to its plant parts and hopefully store those and regrow them in our tissue culture system next door.
Well, this is all very high-tech, John.
This is a great part of the laboratory, Angus. This is our Laminar flow room, which is a little bit like a hospital operating theatre for plants. And in these cabinets where our teams are working, they're working in a sterile environment, and Zoe's doing some interesting work on some orchid material that we have. Every terrestrial orchid we work with has a very highly specific fungus that grows in the ground with it. So Zoe's sampling that material and culturing it so that we can get an understanding of the correct species for each orchid seed.
So you need the fungus and the orchid growing in symbiosis.
Absolutely. The orchid seed itself is incapable of germinating unless we do some clever things in the laboratory. So we're keen to maintain that relationship even after we've taken out the ecosystem, and by culturing them together we can actually make a synthetic seed that we can package the fungus and the seed together, dry it down and store it in our cryogenic facilities.
Mm-hmm. 20 years ago, one of the rarest plants in the Australian flora was first discovered, the Wallamai pine. And that's what this project's all about, because unless we preserve our plant diversity, it's going to spell curtains for all the other living organisms that depend on it for their survival. And who knows what foods and medicines of the future are as yet undiscovered in the Australian flora. And that's the importance of the Australian Plant Bank. It's your garden, so why not come and have a look at it?